Great. Okay. I think we can hear me pretty well. But okay, welcome everyone. It's nice to see this many people here and this many familiar faces as well that we saw a lot in last weekend in Kimito when we had the Nordic Gravel series there. We also have a bunch of people joining us live. So we are streaming live on YouTube. So if you want to go back to anything that we showed tonight, you can watch it anytime on YouTube. But great, and welcome to the Artic by Cycle Bikepacking Route launch event. So we've been really waiting for this bikepacking network to finally be here. My colleague, Taneli, who's still working there, he's been working on this project now since 2020, and it's been a long, long project, but what we have now ready is something pretty cool, and I'm super excited to ride that route by myself this summer as well. My name is Henna. I'm also a really enthusiastic bikepacker, gravel rider, not much of a racer, but more of a party pacer, enjoyer, chiller, like enjoyer type of person. Which is also like, I think a bunch of you are mainly cyclists. We have a bunch of guests tonight as well. First of all is Toni Lund, that some of you might know. Toni will also tell us his story and his way of cycling. And then we have a couple guests from abroad as well, telling us a story. And then eventually, after that, we will also move into the final and the main subject of today, which is the Artic by Cycle Bikepacking Route Network that you all came to see tonight. Before that, I'm going to bore you a tiny bit, because besides that I'm an enthusiast bikepacker by myself, I also work as a specialist at the Finnish Center for Cycling Tourism, which sounds horrible in English. It's Pyörämatkailukeskus in Finnish, which makes a tiny bit more sense, and most of you might know it as a bikeland.fi. So I have a tiny presentation for you about Finland as a cycling country. A bunch of you probably know how it is already, but because there's also people from abroad joining our stream, it's nice to show them as well what is the cycling about in Finland. Before that, how many of you guys here have already started your bikepacking season? Couple hands. Okay, so the summer is starting. Now you can start booking your train tickets to the Lapland. But okay, let's move on. Here's still our program for tonight. So welcome words by me, followed by Toni, Nacho Belle from Ecuador, then a little break. And as you know, we're all here in Peloton, Cycling Eatery in Helsinki. So feel free to go grab some drinks and food. All the food is -10 for everyone at the event. There are some special deals for drinks as well. So just ask at the counter. And we have that break at about in an hour, but just go ahead and feel free to move around. We're not that strict here with that. Great. Are we moving forward? Yes, and then we can put the next presentation, my tiny bit more boring slides, that these beautiful pictures from the Artic by Cycle route. Are we getting them on? Great. How many of you have in fact been riding in Lapland? That is a good number. How many is going this summer to ride in Lapland? Quite a few. And there was a bunch of hands that I didn't see raising yet, so I expect those hands to get up after you have seen the route that we have lined up for you. But okay, let's move into the Bikeland and the Finnish Center of Cycling Tourism. We will be having this little campaign this summer, which was going to go with the title Bike Like a Finn. So we want to showcase how Finns cycle and why you should come to cycle to Finland. We have Rent a Finn campaigns and different things as well, but this summer we're going to bike like a Finn. You will find out more about that later this summer. This is our tiny team that we have at the Finnish Center for Cycling Tourism. My name is Henna. My colleague is Heli Laukkanen, who works as a coordinator. And then Taneli is our route specialist, who's been doing the Artic bicycle. And then he's now responsible also by the South by Cycle bikepacking route that you might have heard. So South by Cycle is the bikepacking route that goes here on the south coast from Hanko to Kouvola. So I also highly recommend riding that this summer if you haven't yet. So, but how is Finland as a cycling country? We know that we have heaps of lakes, thousands of lakes. And that's something I prefer as a bikepacker, since you can almost always find a place to camp by the beach. And always wash yourself, so you don't need to always be the stinky cyclist who goes to restaurants. So for me, having the lakes around and all the water available makes Finland quite special. And it makes it easy to also bikepack and go like riding here. But we do have, besides the lakes, we do have a lot of gravel roads and forest roads and single tracks. And those haven't really been established or used before. So I'm really excited as a bikepacker and gravel rider to finally have these official routes using our gravel routes and gravel roads and forest roads, and finally it's easier for everyone to find them, because that's something that can be quite tricky when you start riding. You're like, how do I find these nice gravel roads? Now you don't need to do all that work by yourself, since now we already have 2 official bikepacking routes going across Finland. As I said, camping by the lake is great, but besides that you can camp with the everyman's rights, you can also just use the wilderness shelters and lean-tos, and we have a big network. And on all of these routes, Taneli has also marked all the wilderness shelters on the route map, so it's easy to find them. So you just need to look at the map, and there's all these huts and lean-tos marked. So life is made easy once again. And these are extremely cozy, and maybe you could even try going without a tent. So you need to carry less in your bike, which makes obviously cycling even nicer when the bike can be more lightweight. My favorite, as I'm not a big fan of the darkness, that is a bit hard phase of a year for me. But then having the nightless nights, that is something special. And last summer I went to ride, in fact, this exact route at midnight in Ylläs. And that was one of the coolest things I did. So if you have not ridden your bike at midnight yet, this summer you need to do it at least once. It is absolutely stunning, and I would recommend doing it in the Arctic, so you can really have the light days all night long. Besides all these things, we have also, as a Finnish Center for Cycling Tourism, been making things tiny bit nicer for cyclists. So we have created this Welcome Cyclist badge. So we already have 2030 companies, accommodations, restaurants, cafes, rentals who have this Welcome Cyclist badge. And it means that they provide these tiny bit better services for cyclists. And by looking at the map you find from bikeland.fi, you can easily find this network of services that you know that have a bike washing station, they have fixing tools if you ever run into problems when you're on the road in Finland. So this is something you should definitely look into as well. And we have, in fact, one of my friends is just bikepacking across the east of Finland, and there was this rainy day, and as we all know from the rainy days, it doesn't do good for the for the gearing and the brakes. So she had to stop, and when you're on a bikepacking trip, you're not obviously carrying all the washing liquid. So she just looked up one of the welcome cyclist places, accommodations, and went to stay there and wash the bike properly, and now she can keep rolling again. So it's something that is good to keep in mind. Even though you would be camping, it might come handy to use these services. But that's how our cycling map is looking at the moment. Our big vision has been that we want to have a map that is full, like Finland map, full of routes. The whole Finland would be connected just by cycling routes, and if possible, by gravel routes as well would be preferable. Having all these long routes you see in the Arctic, those are the Arctic bicycle routes. So there's quite a lot for you to ride this summer, I can tell you. Before that, on the south, you see South by Cycle. We have been lacking these longer routes from Lapland, and now having this definitely makes a big change. As if, when Finland can basically see that now we're on a cycling map officially, and we have long routes to cycle. There you see with the color coding what does the different colors mean, what type of routes they are. But this is basically how Finland is now looking. Our goal is to keep making more of these routes and really have Finland covered for bikepacking, like long-distance cycling routes. It doesn't mean that you need to cycle the whole way. You can just take a train to one place, because Taneli will explain more later, but all these bikepacking routes are designed so that there is also public transport stops on the way, and you can get on all of the routes by public transport. So basically, you don't need your own car. You can just hop on a train, take your bike with you, get off in Rovaniemi, for example, if you start riding the Artic bicycle and start riding. So that way, we can start doing really sustainable traveling in official way. But now, we will let the next speaker tell, where is Toni? Is Toni somewhere in the back? Yes, thank you. So Toni will tell his story, how he has kind of started cycling and what are all the things he's been doing. He's been doing a lot of things along the years, but stage is yours, and I'm happy to hear your story as well.
Just trying to get the first picture. There it is. So yeah, thanks for Taneli and Henna for having me here. My name is Toni Lund, and I'm an adventure cyclist. And I was born in 1975, and I learned to ride bikes at a really early age. I was something like 4 years old, and my mother told that when I got my first bike, which had those kind of helping wheels, I wanted to get rid of them because I saw the big boys riding without them, and I just wanted to ride like them. So, but my story is quite long. After 1995, when I went to army, I just wanted a new direction for my life, because I was always liking cycling, but I got inspiration from racing cycling, and I just wanted to see what I could do. So after army, I started to train, and from 1997 to 2005, I raced on road and also mountain bike races. From 2006 to 2009, I I just wanted to see what I could do in 24-hour solo races because I never felt like I had some speed. So I wanted to see if endurance and long distances would be something for me. So, and it was. It really literally opened my eyes, and I found that this is something that I want to do because there is so much mental things with long distance riding. So, and then 2010, we had really good winters here, also in southern Finland, and the fat bikes started to come here. So I started to specialize myself on winter cycling and fat bikes. And in 2011, I didn't have my first fat bike back then, but anyway, we did a really cool trip across sea ice from Åland to Turku with Peter Nylund. And then I started to do more bikepacking trips. And then 2013, that was the first winter race I did, Rovaniemi 150. I was 5th. Then the next year again, I almost won that race. I lost my way in the last kilometers on the Ounasjoki River, and the second guy, he passed me. But anyway, that's opened a new door, so I could enter to the toughest winter ultramarathon in the world. It's the Iditarod Trail Invitational. And the short distance is actually 350 miles, and the long one is 1,000 miles. So as you can see here are the routes. There is 2 routes on the 1,000 miles, southern roads and northern roads. And, but of course, you have to finish the 350 miles first. You can't enter the 1,000 miles, and you have to enter that the next year or later when you have finished the 350 miles. So first time when I was there in 2015, the Alaska is the land of extremes, and there was just a little snow that year, and the trail was super fast. And when I entered this is after the Alaska range, mountain range, right after that, when I entered the Farewell Burn wilderness area, it was almost completely out of snow. So it was really not like what I anticipated, because everyone usually accepts that there is snow, or actually lots of snow. But it was there was lots of tussocks, so it was really tough on your body, but still quite fast riding. And there I finished at 8th place, and I was actually best European that year, so it was really good. 2 days, 18 hours and 34 minutes. Then, of course, I wanted to see the 1,000 miles. And I was the first from Finland to finish that 350 miles, so the next step was the 1,000 miles. And before that, actually, I rode through Finland from Hanko to Nuorgam, 1,500 kilometers, but that was in the summertime. But I just wanted to see how my body could handle riding several days. And it went fairly well. I had some problems with my ankles and stuff like that, but it was good. But here I am in the Alaska range and doing the 1,000 miles. And here is one of the really big moments of that race. This is the CI crossing, which is in the later part of that 1,000 miles. And this was, there was just horrible conditions. The temperature was -20, with the wind chill was at least minus 40, minus 45. And as you can see, the trail was completely messy. It didn't make any sense to ride that, because you had to hop off your bike and on your bike all the time. And in those conditions, it was just way too, taking just way too much energy. So I decided to push my bike, because there is always a little pushing or a lot of pushing. And that year, there was lots of pushing, because there was so much snow, so many snowstorms, and that storm, it was kind of ground blizzard, clear sky, but just awful wind. And that was, I had all sorts of trouble before that. I had stomach trouble and things like that going on earlier in the race, and it was super hard. But that was, CI crossing took about 20 hours for me, and I had to repeat to myself several times that you don't want to die here, because you just couldn't stop for a long moment. You had to eat fast, drink fast. You had to keep the wind behind your back. You had to repeat that for 20 hours. If you would do some mistakes, you would come back in a body bag or something like that. You would die. That was just so simple. And in the end, in the darkness, during the night, I had problems with my goggles. I couldn't see properly, and it was really kind of defining moment of that race and in my life. So when I finally reached the next village after this CI crossing Koyuk, I saw the Northern Lights. So it was like an amazing experience. Then after that, the snowstorms continued, and the trail was just completely gone. So it was almost all the time pushing and deep snow. And we were in a small group of riders or pushers. So I was leading there, and I just had to take several times short breaks because it was so hard. And this winter adventure and race, there is a 30-day time cut. So you won't be an official finisher if you don't do it under 30 days. So I was really smashing my limits, everything. But we were able to do it, and I finished as the first one from Finland in 26 days, 18 hours and 19 minutes. Sorry, 19 hours and 18 minutes. But anyway, clearly under the 30-day time cut. And that was the southern road. So things continued, of course, and I wanted to see the northern road. And I did that in 2020, the year the corona crisis started, but it was just before that, or actually the corona crisis started during this race. And one of the things I wanted to see, I haven't seen the Alaska Range in the early parts during daylight. I had been there 2 times during the night, but this time I was during the daylight, and I finally saw the Alaska Range, and the Rainy Pass is the passage through it. And as you can see, it's just a mind-blowing place. And the funny thing is that during those nights when I was there was first time a small storm, not too bad, but the second time it was just an awful storm, really dangerous place. There can be avalanches as well. But this time it was just clear day and the wind was completely still. No wind at all. And so there is the rainy pass sign. And incredible place. But in the later parts, there was a big storm, and this time the storm was from the sea, so it broke the sea ice, and only the top 3 riders could go to Nome, to the finish. So we were picked up and rescued by snow machines so that we wouldn't go to that place, because there was, in some places, there was about 2 meters water on top of the ice, so it was completely impassable, this sea ice crossing. So these are my biggest accomplishments as an adventure cyclist, but I've been riding always throughout the year, doing some summer trips. In that same year, I rode through all the southern Finland's castles, doing the kind of tour of 7 castles, 700 kilometers, a bit more. And then I've been also in Lapland several times, but those have been mostly the Levi 24-hour races, but I was once in the Kaldor-Ivy wilderness area. But I'm really looking forward to this Arctic bicycle road, and I really hope to do several adventures there. And the thing is that what I really like on these adventures, like in Alaska, Alaska is like 100 times or 1,000 times Lapland, but you get the same feelings in Lapland what you get in Alaska. And what you feel there, at least I feel there, is that the nature is so big, you have to respect it, otherwise it will punish you. When you are alone there, I like that feeling that you don't have room to make mistakes, and you have to respect the nature. And that's the thing that drives me there time after time. And I've learned a lot on these long Alaska trips, so it gives me plenty of comfort to do these things, of course, because it changed how my perception of distances, because the Alaska distances, they can be, the short distance can be actually long when it's low, but those extremely long days, they give you the ability to do quite long trips comfortably. And actually today, that's the reason I have this cycling gloves, because I rode from Paimio to Helsinki, 151 kilometers, because, well, it was a nice day and tailwinds, so of course. So it was really nice to ride here and give this short presentation. So that's from me. And if you have any questions, I will be here until about 10 o'clock or slightly before that, before my bus goes back to Paimio. So thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Toni. And I think we need to give him a big applause.
Thank you.
Good. Take my hat off for riding in those conditions. I think I will stick to summer riding. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah.
No, really impressive. Thank you, Toni.
Thanks.
We have a little special video coming up next, and Taneli knows this guy a tiny bit better and their story. So please, Taneli, tell us a tiny bit more about the next video.
Yeah, hi from my behalf as well. Nice to see you. So, how many of you here seeing what's coming up in the north soon? Actually, the page is live already, but don't go there yet. I will go through the routes and explain the details. And the next video, why I wanted to have a word here already, is that it's by Payman. It's I could say it's like partly Finnish, definitely partly Finnish, speaks Finnish, knows all the funny ways to say all the swear words and stuff like that. Half a serie, I assume. And he's been on a bike for a while now, and I think he's not planning to ever stop. And he's a very interesting character. I told him not to do any of my routes, but except the gravel ones. But he chose them, like the one which was the most difficult. The bike weighs 3 or 4 times mine, but for him it's not a problem. And so he did some of the most challenging routes there is, and yeah, this is a short clip about it.
Yes, enjoy the video. You will see a tiny bit of a struggle there.
Push. That's what I do.
Yeah, so that was Payman. You can follow him on Nomad's Trail. He's now in, I think, Tanzania. And I think soon coming to visit Finland, but I think he's planning to then continue maybe Africa, and then who knows where. He has made it work for him, bike touring in the long term, financially, and that's what he loves. So yeah, quite cool to follow him. Next we have another friend of mine. I met him originally 2017. I met him in, I think it was Argentina on my trip. He's on Instagram with his name called 260 liters, and you might wonder what creates such a name. The name comes from the fact that when he started from the south of South America with Simon, they both had 130 liters of carrying capacity. So very traditional way for panniers, front rack, rear rack. And so two of the guys, 2 people with exactly the same gear makes 260 liters. And he has gone a long way. He has gone a long way since that. And yeah, let's see what what Nacho has to tell us about his story from 260 liters to something he's doing quite successfully now.
Thanks, Taneli. Hi, everyone. Well, I'm Nacho. I'm actually from Spain, but have been living abroad since 2017, the year where I met Taneli in Argentina or Chile. I don't really remember what it was exactly. And well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story of how I started traveling and nowadays ended up making ultra distance you this. I wanted to make a PDF presentation, but wasn't able because I'm actually living in Ecuador and I have all my stuff back in Spain. So I'm just gonna go through my Instagram photos and stories that I have here. I have prepared some. So, well, this is me. 5 years ago, just before deciding I was gonna have the trip of my life, which was gonna change my whole life really. This was me, a normal person with a normal life, just cycling around to pass the hangover after the day of drinking. I was 87 kilos there, and this is me nowadays with 71 kilos
Again,
and
I don't.
drinking.
Yeah, now my microphone is not sure we're having. I don't know if you can hear us. We are having a bit of audio problem at the
Yes.
moment.
Okay.
So actually, we have not been able to hear you since they are trying to solve the problem at the moment. And
Okay.
no pressure back there behind the table. Yeah.
I'm just.
So, and somebody was commenting here that they can read from the lips quite well, so maybe have a translator what has been going on so far. But if not, I can tell a story. I can tell a
can
story
start.
how we met up and how we continued cycling together. So so I met up with these guys for a few days and yeah, they were big and heavy, quite excited, made cool photos, made good gear review videos, and I tried to take them to some like rough stuff, to gravel roads, back to the mountains. Didn't really work out. They still were finding their tracks. They were still on their way to build the inspiration to go where they eventually got. And then I made like a surprise to meet up with them again. And it sort of worked out. Eventually, I found them, and I think it was on the same day that we met up. There was this crazy long downhill, like 300-400 meters steep, and it was a warm day as well. So I think I got in the downhill, I got my brake pads and brakes quite sensitive, even though I have mechanical brakes. So I managed to have eventually enough power to stop my bike completely exactly when it should not have stopped. So we arrived at traffic lights after this crazy downhill, and I wanted to show off with a drop bar bike, having most of my weight in the front. I want to try to do like how is it called, like a nose wheelie to stop in the traffic lights. So immediately when I touched the brakes, the bike shot me over the bars. And you know, on a long tour by the sea, what happens? Your cleats and your pedals, they get rusty. So then, when you have rust in your pedals and you try to unclip on the way to the pavement, that doesn't work out. So I went all the way down with the weight of my bike. I missed the car by 5 centimeters and hit my head. I hit my head on the pavement. And I woke up still wearing my sunglasses. So like, what happened?
Hi,
And then I started
can
to
you hear me
feel
now?
the warm red blood like coming down my cheek, and then immediately a bus next to us. They're like, hey, are you okay? I can give you a ride to the hospital. He's like, yeah, sounds good. I jump on the bus. Rest of the guys, they took care of my bike. And then that bus, which was apparently going somewhere, had a fixed route, took me to a local hospital. And every now and then I got these comments like, hey, you're a cool guy, but you're bleeding. Like, you should take off your sunglasses. But I couldn't, because the glass had popped out of the frame, and it was stuck. I was walking around in an Argentinian hospital wearing my sunglasses, and eventually, with some help, they managed to open the frame, and I got to remove the sunglasses, and I think I got 7 stitches. 7 stitches,
Can
and
you
then after that
hear
we were
me?
hosted by a
Possible
local
to
man
hear me?
that they had met on the way. And I think we spent 4 nights there even. 3 nights, and just enough that I could use my eyes again. Of course, it got all really swollen, and yeah, that's how I got to spend more time with Nacho for the first time. I mean, yeah, based on the expressions Nacho is doing there behind the screen, he remembers the case.
You cannot hear
He
me,
remembers
nothing,
the
no?
case as well. Yeah, how are we doing with the audio? Still challenges. Still challenges. More stories from Argentina. What story could it be? It could be one of many. Oh yeah, maybe that one, because I actually started riding up from the most southern point of South America in the winter. I knew it would be sort of a bad idea, but yeah, I thought the snow would not be a problem. And eventually, I think it wasn't. We got the snowiest winter for 10 years in the southern Patagonia. It was nice because I got to ride in sub-zero temperatures, which is dry. Like, you know, most of you people, you ride bikes. You know when it's like +5, like most of the winter here in Helsinki, something between -2 and +5. It's not very nice, but when it goes to -5 and -10, it actually gets nice. It's dry. And if you have some snow on the road, it gets silent as well. So that's really nice. So I got to ride 6 weeks on snow. And I think during those 6 weeks, though, as well, because, you know, not many people are outside in South America when it's cold and snow. It's considered to be the time that you just, you know, just watch Netflix or basically, yeah, or sometimes you just even stay in the bed because your house doesn't have a central heating or any heating at all. So I didn't meet many people during that 6 weeks either. And that 6 weeks ended to a village in Argentina called El Bolson, where I ended up waiting. I think I was there for at least 4 weeks. Long enough to do a visa run by walking. Like, it's great to tour South America because you have every time you cross the border, like from Chile to Argentina. I crossed it 12 times. It's great because you get extra 90 days every time you go across the border. So it's also practical to stay in the mountains and stay in the mountains and go from country to country. By that time, I stayed in the village of El Bolson for so long, so I did that by foot. Yeah, and that was like a trekking story, I suppose, even though it's more about the background. And how are we doing now with the...
We're still struggling a bit, but let's have a break since we have already kind of like on a schedule a little later.
Yeah.
Let's have a little break now because that was going to follow up after Nacho.
Okay.
So go grab some drinks, go to a toilet, let's have a break and figure out the audio while we do that, and then we get back and then we can do everything else.
Yeah.
After that, straight
Sounds
through.
good.
Even though your stories were nice, though, I think we could keep going like that the whole night. I don't know, do we need to do anything else? Well, great. Let's have a tiny break, so feel free to go grab a drink.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, sorry for the hassle. I hope you can hear me now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Not sure
Can you
if
hear
you're
me?
there.
Can you hear me? I hear you perfect. I can hear you perfect. Can you hear me? No, I don't hear you.
looks better. And now you can hear me. Okay. Now we solved all the audio problems. We got some drinks, so we're good to go again. Taneli, you know this guy a little better, as you already shared some stories. So go ahead, stage is yours.
Yeah, the same bearded man, now a bit more fit than before. Hey, tell your story, man.
Okay, now everyone can hear me? Is it working? Okay, well, I'm Nacho. I met Taneli first, as he said, in 2017. Well, we were starting our trip that at the beginning we thought it was going to be a trip of 6 to 9 months, but it turned out to be a 3 years trip. And I don't know if you can see my screen. Is it possible? Because I'm like
Yes.
using another screen now, not that one that I'm seeing there. Can you see this me with 17 kilos more? Is it? I don't know if you are able to see. Well, I don't know if you're able to see or not, but when in 2016, I was just a normal person who would just ride bikes to pass the hangover of of the day before after drinking a lot. And by that time I was weighing 87 kilos, and this is me 5 years afterwards, weighing almost 17 kilos less, 17.1 now. And in 2016, I was going through a hard time in my life. In 2014, my father just died, and had a heartbreak. I was not doing good at my job, and I just decided that I really needed a big change in my life. So I was seeking to do the normal things. Like since I was a child, I really wanted to travel the world and go seek go to seek other new things out. But I never had the guts to really do it and go out and do that stuff until all these things that happened in my life came. So I started seeking to go on a cruise or go to Canada or go to work abroad and travel, but doing something that still gave me my comfort zone of having an stability and an economic stability and not going away without anything. So in 2016, I knew this guy, Salva Rodriguez, who was a Spanish guy that was just came back from traveling 9 years around the world by bike. So I was astonished about the idea of traveling by bike. And then I started looking for how to go out and how to travel by bike and what we can do. So it was around June 2016 when I decided I was going to be traveling by bike, and I called my best friend Simon to just let him know that I decided to go out traveling by bike to South America. And when I called him to tell him that, he just told me like, "Hey, I'm just going with you." And I was like, "Whoa, okay, man. If you want to come, just let's do it." And this was 6 months after that first call. We were in San Sebastian in our hometown in the Basque Country in Spain, preparing all the stuff to go to South America and start a travel that by the beginning it was going to be a 6 to 9 months travel around. We planned to go from El Calafate in Argentina, where the Perito Moreno Glacier is, to Cusco in that time. But the first week we started our trip, we just went 500 kilometers south instead of north. And in that going south, we knew a lot of persons and a lot of travelers that were going and coming from Alaska. we also how can I explain this? We also got to know that we were spending a lot less money than we thought we were going to spend. So we were like, hey, we can make a living, maybe working on the way, and we're spending a lot of less money. Why don't we just go to Alaska? So in that going south to Torres del Paine, we decided that we were going to go to Alaska. So it took us what we thought that was going to be a 6 to 9 months travel. It took us 3 years, no, 2 years and a half to get to Peru. And we traveled through Argentina, Chile, Bolivia. We met a lot of persons in the way, and we were astonished about the idea of traveling. We crossed the Salar of Uyuni in Bolivia with a family. We met tons of people traveling around South America in Argentina. And well, but when we started the trip and why we are called 260 liters, it's as Taneli mentioned before, it was because we were carrying the volume in our saddles of 260 liters. And we traveled like that through Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, and Peru. But when we got to Peru, we decided that we wanted to make a big change in our way of traveling. Because since we met Taneli in Chile, we had this crazy idea of turning into bikepacking, from bike touring to bikepacking, and turning our bikes from 60 kilos to 30 kilos. So we could travel through more remote areas and go more into the cultures and the incredible landscapes that bikepacking can get you to. So we turned from these 60 kilograms bikes to these, which were 30 kilograms bikes. But in this case, in this photo especially, where we make the change, it was in Peru. And you can see here a pack raft and a lot of things that we were gonna get rid of after doing Peru. Cause well, I'm a passionate like Danelli. That is something that I think he also transmitted me about seeking for new routes in each of the countries that I traveled through. So when we got to Peru, I wanted to make something with bikepacking, but also that we could combine with the pack rafts. So I designed a route that went from Cusco to Iquitos. It was a 2,700 kilometers route where we were going to go. These are from like, sorry, we were going to combine the bikes with the pack rafts, and it was going to be a route of 102,000 kilometers with the pack rafts on the river, and 1,400 kilometers through possibly one of the remotest countries and routes that we have ever done. We were traveling through really, really remote areas, going through native communities that maybe it was the first time that they were seeing a gringo, how they would like to call white people around there. And it was a life-changing route, really. And it was an incredible experience too, to change from bike touring to bike packing and see how wide the opportunities of bike packing can give you in any of the countries that you can go. Because while doing bike packing, even though you can do bike packing with route cycling or gravel cycling or MTB cycling, you can do bikepacking in super remote areas, but you can also go through asphalt roads or any kind of places, whilst going with a bike touring bike with 60 kilograms. I mean, you can do it, but it's going to definitely be much more hard to get to these kind of places that we went through Peru. So in the going up to Alaska, we went through amazing places, as you can see in these photos. We crossed the Ucayali River in Peru. It's the highway, one of the rivers that it's called the Highway of the Amazonia in Peru. And this river connects with the Marañón in the north, and in Iquitos, they create the Amazon River that goes straight to the Atlantic Sea. So you can go from Cusco to the Atlantic if anyone in the future have time and wants to have an incredible experience there. So from Peru, we went to Ecuador, and in Ecuador was gonna come the next step and the next Nacho, where we got to Quito in November 2019, and it was gonna be here where I was gonna meet my former wife. As you can see, yeah, I got married riding a bike. And when I first met her, she was working with a guy. Well, I'm gonna go a little bit before. While traveling, I'm a film producer and photographer. So while traveling, we make our living making film productions and photography wherever we were able to do it. We worked for restaurants, wineries, hotels, and everything that we can do in the way to make some money and keep on traveling for as long as we could. But when we reached Ecuador, Quito, actually, where I'm right now living, Luisa, she was working with a wedding planner here, which gave us the opportunity to stay to work a little bit here. He would love our work, and he offered us to stay working here. But we were very unaware that a pandemic was going to hit the world. So in March of 2020, we found ourselves stuck in Ecuador without knowing what to do, where to go, what to do. So we just decided that we had to make our living somehow here until we could move away or see how the world was going to continue and see if we were going to be able to continue the trip or not. But soon we realized that this was not going to be possible because all the borders between countries were just shut down. You cannot go in between countries unless you take planes, and it was all a mess, as you all know. So I stayed here. I continued with Luisa, and it was 1 year ago we got married. And while we were in the lockdown here in Ecuador, I decided that I wanted to continue with the steps of my brother that he used to run triathlons. So in the lockdown, I started running in the terrace of the building that I was living with the idea of making an Ironman as soon as I was able to. But running was not my stuff, so I always got injured, and I just started like cycling, like crazy cycling, doing a lot of kilometers, and I found myself that it was good for me. I was doing good, doing a lot of kilometers, and in October 2020, it was the transition from the bikepacker world traveler to the ultra distance racer that I'm nowadays here. I'm dressed in cycling clothes because I just came back from training. I train now 6 days a week, about 20 hours, 25 hours per week. And here's the photo of my first ever ultra distance race with my super heavy traveling bike, and it was an incredible experience. It was super tough. Riding in Ecuador is really, really tough. Here we have a lot of altitude, but I just found that racing these kind of races took myself, my psychological part and my physical part to places that I've never experienced before and that I love to go to. So this was my first race, and I did not that good, but I finished. It was 380 kilometers with 10,000 meters of elevation through the remotest areas of the Ecuador, of the highlands of the Ecuador. So I decided to continue there. I started training with a team here, with a coach, and I continued. I found gravel bikes after that race, and I really loved riding gravel bikes because you can just like go through asphalt roads, super hard soils, and go super fast. I mean, it's not as comfortable as an MTB bike, but it's really good. So I started doing only gravel ultra distance races. This was my first one. It was the Trans Ecuador. It was 680 kilometers with 16,000 meters of elevation. And it's quite nice to see the change from going from this to only this. Oh shit, sorry, to only this, and see that with little you can go really, really long. So this is my first long ultra distance race and all the things that I took there. And this is how I ended that race. And take a look at this photo. I think that it talks by itself. It was a really, really hard race. I would say it's probably one of the hardest races, ultra distance races in the world right now. I think that everyone would do it one time, but not two times. And well, I just kept training like crazy. I'm riding 400, 500 kilometers per month now. I went last year to my first international race in Colombia, where I to Transcordilleras, where I was able to make a solid second place that I couldn't believe. It was also nice. This was a stage race, three stages, 360 kilometers with 11,000 kilometers, 11,000 meters. And afterwards, I went to Chile in November, and this was my first time riding a 1,000 kilometers ultra distance race, also a gravel one. I made third here, and this was probably the race that made me think that I really want to continue my career as a ultra distance and gravel racer. So this year, I'm right now preparing myself to go to my most important race this year in Spain, which is going to be Basajaun. It's going to be the 13th of July, and I'm going to try to do my best as long as I can. So, yeah, this is more or less my story, where I just turned from a normal person with 87 kilograms to a traveler, a world seeker, a world history seeker everywhere I could go, to a bikepacker seeking for amazing routes in amazing places, to a racer, and also sharing my life as a bikepacker with my wife now, everywhere we go and everywhere we want to. So here from Ecuador, I really want to like just encourage people to seek everything that they want through traveling, in life, in races. and just let people know that any dream that you can just do it with consistency and resilience on doing it. And also, thanks very much, Taneli, for letting me share all my story here. I know I'm a little bit mess. I've been a lot of time without talking in English, and maybe I didn't express myself well, but thanks very much for this opportunity. And I hope that this incredible project that you have done just makes people go out there and see the incredible places that Finland just have. And I hope so also to, as I told you the other day, to come soon there and maybe try to make a fastest known time at the whole loop of the ring. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nacho. That's exactly something that Taneli said me just a moment ago, that the first question Nacho had asked him when Taneli told about the route was like, what is the fastest known time on the route? So just like that, we come from a party pacer into a proper ultra racer. So yes, Nacho, you can come this summer and tell us what is the fastest known time after that. Thank you.
I will try to do my best. It's nice also to have heard about the Idita Road trail race, because one of my biggest dreams right now is to do it and try to break the record of the 1,000 miles one.
That sounds good. Good luck with that. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy.
Okay, great. We have heard quite a stories from cycling in like winter conditions, cycling ultra racing, but even cycling doing longer bikepacking trips. Like one thing is for sure, that by doing longer trips and riding your bike, it offers you a complete new way to like adventure and like explore just your backyard. And you learn a lot about yourself by doing longer trips. A good example of that is also that for me, in fact, like bikepacking opened completely new doors in Finland. Like it made me see Finland completely differently. And that's what I really like, that is like sometimes you need to go far and there's great places far abroad. But in fact, you can just do same adventures just in your backyard, whether it's like here in south of Finland or if it's in Finnish Lapland, you can still do the adventures. And also for Taneli, it took quite a journey before he realized what is basically on his backyard. He went on a long, long trip to realize that, in fact, a Finnish Lapland is basically a gem for a bikepacker. There is a route network that had not been like established or used at all, but now, and after that, he came back, and now we have the Artic bicycle. But let's watch first a short video, which also already shows you a little bit of the route and shows a little bit of the Taneli's story, and then we let Taneli finally introduce the whole idea and behind the Artic bicycle, and as well as the route, so you finally see what the Artic bicycle is about. Okay, let's enjoy.
My name is Taneli Roininen and I'm a bicycle traveler from Finland. I cycled 44,000 kilometers across 38 countries and 3 continents over the time period of 4 years. Initially, it was the climate crisis that made the decision to travel by bicycle rather easy. How else could you travel long distances sustainably? Also, I wanted to try bicycle touring because I like traveling as well as camping, and it seemed to be bringing the two together. It turned out it's a fantastic way to travel and enjoy nature. It's such a great speed to travel, as I'm fast enough to cross continents but slow enough to stop to chat with locals and soak in every view as well. The more I traveled, the more I saw how little there was untouched nature left. Therefore, my mission came to find these patches and corridors of natural beauty and link them into continuous lines across countries. Before my trip, the word bikepacking was fairly unknown. In 2016 though, when I looked into updating my carrying system, it certainly wasn't anymore. Bikepacking has been defined as a synthesis of mountain biking and minimalist camping with an element of exploration. With my new touring setup, I could ride much rougher routes comfortably than before, and it opened my eyes of the bikepacking route potential of the Lapland area. Lapland has attracted trekkers for over a century with its numerous national parks, long-distance hiking routes, and hundreds of wilderness cabins. The dream had been to make a 1,500-kilometer continuous loop connecting the wilderness areas and national parks of the Great North. I wanted to find the most scenic route with the best quality riding, with great camp spot and occasional services on the way.
Yeah, thanks. That was something we did with Timo Veijalainen in 2020. And so the first vision was to create a big loop in the Arctic. Actually, to start the route development that way, to make a sort of like a benchmark long route in the Arctic area, and it worked out mostly, but we actually could not eventually close the loop. But the vision was to have that as a starting point. So the first project, Arctic Bikepacking Trail Route Development Project, it started the route work, and it was purely route work. That's it. 7 months, I spent as much time in the wild as I could, went through all the maps to have a vision what could be done here. I had camping, trekking, and even bike touring I had done in Lapland, but still there was a lot more to explore. I just figured out Lapland is actually 3 times the size of Belgium, so it's quite a big area. So that's how it all started, and now we are publishing a 2,000 kilometer route network. We have 2,000 kilometers of individual routes, which means that there's more than 3,000 kilometers in tours, and we have also already on the map 1,000 kilometers more of routes, which will complete, in a way, the Arctic Bike Cycle Route Network. But well, you heard a bit about the background. Maybe you found an Instagram account called Gone Bike Fishing. Maybe you've been on a website called gonebikefishing.com, which I started to have 2 years into my trip. I decided to start a blog. I wanted to tell my story more, maybe because I was quite lonely. I wanted to talk with somebody. I couldn't find anyone in the wild, so I started to write a blog. It worked out quite nicely, psychologically, but in practice it didn't work out all the way through. It's really hard to find time to write when you ride your bike as your unpaid day job. So the stories don't continue all the way through, but there's quite a lot there, and I just found myself the other day going to my website and reading my own stories. So it seems that, and they actually made me excited. It seems that I have forgotten some stuff I went through on the trip. That's how I looked. That's how the bike looked. 3 years into the trip. In this case, I was in Bolivia. I had crossed a big desert. Before that, you can see there's soft, like a fine sand all over the place. And that was also the point that my stuff started to break. So it's quite easy to see in the picture what is new and what's about to fall apart. Obviously, in that picture, the tires are brand new, and it was, yeah. So this was the big, eventually the dream. Actually, when I started from Finland, the plan was to just reach Asia. The reason was I wanted to go back to Asia. I wanted to see mountains. I had been trekking in Nepal 5 years earlier. I walked 800 kilometers in the mountains, and I just fell in love with the mountains. But then I heard about the thing called climate change, which they call climate crisis for a good reason nowadays. So I didn't want to actually fly anymore. So then I sort of knew I had not actually tried long distance bike touring before, but I just knew that it would work for me, that like all the elements would work for me. So I knew that if I wanted to go back to Asia, I would need to ride my bike to get there. So that took me first 2 years. Then I had a bit of a break in Bali. One reason for that I tried to take a sailing boat to Australia, and then I had a sort of a figured a ride already from the New Zealand to South America, but the first sailing boat was a scam, and I just lost all my money. And then I just thought, well, maybe it's good to stay here for a while. And then 2 years into my trip, I had a visit to Finland. I checked my health. I've had heart problems, not really problems, but something that I knew that needed to be fixed. So actually, before my trip, I had planned everything in advance. Everything was set, but I still had to ask a permission sort of from my heart doctor. And he told me that go now. Like, you're running out of time in a way, so go now and come back in 2 years for a checkup. That's what I did. From Bali, I flew to Finland and had the checkup, got a green light to go for 2 more years when would be the next checkup. And that was the time when the word bikepacking, the concept of bikepacking, in the sense that we understand it today, in a way, had started to develop. So when I started my trip, I think Instagram was started just a bit before that, and it was a cool thing to have, and I wanted to have a microblog, share something to the people I knew, so they would know that I'm alive. So I started an Instagram account, and then 2 years into my trip, a gear manufacturer, Artic, they came up with their first bikepacking bags, and they were nice enough to let me to give me a set to use on my trip, and that was also the opportunity to get bigger tires, really review all my gear, and that's how I shaved off a lot of my weight. So I think I started with 25 kilos of gear on my bike, and the bike was probably 20 as well. And then when I flew into South America, it was 12 kilos, including the bags, excluding the bikes, but the gear and bags were 12 kilos, and I shaved it down for the hardest part of the route to 8 kilos. Giving you the idea what can be done, and when you're going so much lighter, it can be two things. Okay, you're faster or more comfortable, and in some cases it gives you more capacity to carry food, and that was sort of all this progress, like the physical preparation, gear preparation, all like was going towards something. I wanted to have bigger and bigger challenges on the way. And I think I have a few pictures from that challenge. Not this one. This was from the Pamir Highway, taken by Anne. Some fantastic views on the way to remember what's coming next. This is from Torres del Paine, beautiful routes in South America. And eventually these pictures will lead to the Puna, which I'm building the bridge to. But this is a great example as well. This is from Peru, where they have so-called tropical glaciers, or not that many anymore. I think in 20 years they forecasted that they're nearly completely gone. And here is some moraine valley in the picture, which used to be a glacier. And so this is just a good example where you can get with your bike when you go light enough and know what you're doing. You can even ride next to glaciers. Sometimes the route continued to quite a lot bit higher, like a lot higher. And at some point the glacier was below me. So fantastic riding in some parts of Peru. Yeah, but this is what I was talking about, Puna. So for me, this was the sort of a turning point in many ways on my trip. It was a culmination as well. I had been preparing myself for a long time for something, and then it all ended up being crossing the Puna, because there was this huge part on the map which they didn't have anything at all. I didn't know any bike tourists who have gone there, and the region is like 1,000 kilometers long, and how the hell nobody has gone there before. Eventually I found that some people had been there, some mountaineers, some hardcore bike tourists already long before, but nobody had connected the route like from south to north across the area. So, and it seemed like a fun thing to do. So that's what I went for. To make that happen, I loaded my bike with 17 kilos of food, which lasted eventually 5 weeks. So in that bike, 17 kilos of food, and I think 3 or 5 liters of cooking alcohol. And that worked out for me. I had plus-size tires, so it was just enough flotation so that I could do the route. Here you see I even stored this bloody angel hair pasta, which I cannot recommend to anyone, but it cooks really fast. I was eating that, lentils, and salami 3 times a day, and survived. And it was a huge experience. Here's one of my favorite camp spots from all of my trip. There's a Volcampeñado, nearly 6,000 meters high, perfectly symmetrical, and I'm there between the lava stones, camping and drying my sleeping bag. And next to me is something I really appreciate as well, which is fresh water. The area has water, but most of the water has salt. It's saline. So, and most of the time undrinkable. So you need to follow the animal behavior to find the fresh water. And I quite quickly learned that the local animals, their tolerance for salt is much higher than mine. So that water in the picture is completely fresh. It's from the rain and looks nasty, but it was actually quite a treat to find it. Eventually, my trip it ended in Colombia. I decided that was enough. I think after especially the Puna experience, how much it gave me, how much it tested me, I felt it was time to do something else for a while. It was also time for the next heart checkup. So I came for the heart checkup, and then I actually got a call then to have the surgery, and now my heart has been fixed, and I'm much fitter actually than on my trip, which is quite cool. I recover much faster, and so that's cool. So my vision was to return. I was always dreaming about returning to my home village in the north of Kirkkonummi, Veikkola, by bicycle. I was dreaming that I will do to South America, continue to Alaska. Then, of course, I would cross across Siberia as well, and I was dreaming of cycling from Alaska to Siberia. Oh, nice! I heard about the guy who did it. I think he might be still in jail of doing that, but it sounded like an exciting idea at a time. So eventually I managed to finish my trip by bicycle, but it was only from the Helsinki-Vantaa airport back to Veikkola, but it's still like on some sort of emotional level, physical level, obviously. It closed the loop. So that's when I got home. It was the first day of the winter in Helsinki, and it was fantastic to get home after 4 years on the road. On the way, soon after I started my South America stretch, I was contacted by a website called bikepacking.com, and they asked for articles and routes, and I had already started to all I did when I was not on the bike, I was checking the maps and checking routes. I was sort of finding the most scenic, the nicest bikepacking route across the Patagonia, and then eventually across the whole Andes. That was the vision. So I told them, hey, I might not have enough time to write stories, but I'm working on these routes anyway. So I sent them the first one, Fin del Mundo, in the most southern tip of South America. It was published in 2017, and since there are 5 routes made by me on the south side, and interestingly, they are still one of the only ones in Chile and that part of Chile and Argentina. And I'm looking forward to someday connecting those and making a bit Patagonian traverse. It was 2015. I mentioned that when I started my trip, it didn't exist. The bikepacking.com. It was on the Logan's personal website, pedaling nowhere, when his friends were sharing their stories, and they had got this idea that there is more to bike touring than what it has been in the past. Ultralight camping and trekking had become increasingly easy. Like, you started to find gear really easily for fair prices, which when I started my trip, I couldn't find any single gear from Finland that I wanted to use on my trip. Couldn't find a sleeping bag under -7 sleeping bag under 1 kilo. I just couldn't find it. Like a spacious 1.5 person tent under 1 kilo. I couldn't find it. I had to buy it from the States, and the gear list went on and on like that. I couldn't find the stuff I needed from Finland. Luckily, now things have changed. Now even some of the big brands are producing lighter gear for fair prices. So that's great, and it really gave the basis for the rise of bikepacking. In my view, there was a lot more to it, like the bike, the bag development and stuff like that, which has the race history as well as the general interest towards combining the mountain biking and ultralight camping. So it was 2015, Logan posted this hey, we got the new site called bikepacking.com. It was 7 years ago, and they have not told me their numbers, but I guess the numbers are really high. Just a few years ago, nobody knew what bikepacking meant in Finland even, and looking back that I have the next slide, has a good citation from the Outside magazine from 2018. They said the sport, bikepacking, is almost as widely accepted in the States as its better-known namesake, backpacking, even though no one knew the word or the concept 10 years ago. And in that case, the website had been, the concept had existed 3-4 years. So it became so big in the States so fast, and that partly, I think, explains why it's quite big worldwide, and it will have a permanent new component in traveling by bicycle forever now on. Here's a collage of few different styles sort of a bike touring, but really what makes bikepacking is how you carry your gear. You have the soft bags instead of the rack and front rack, though that is quite a bad definition as well. And I think Logan, Cass, and Joe on the bikepacking.com, they just changed the definition of bikepacking again. or actually they tried to change it, but they actually ended up doing like a review. What does it mean for different people? And they found that they have a cool video on the site on YouTube, and they found that actually it still means quite a different things to different people, and I think that's the essence of bikepacking. The traveling by bicycle has not changed for anything. It was huge in 1870, that the most famous, the most common way to travel, 1870, and hopefully it will be eventually again. And now I think what we can all agree, and what they agreed on the video as well, and what is in the essence of bikepacking, what can be shared. It focuses off-road, like off pavement, or even like if taking even one step back from that, it's all terrain touring, and like some of you might have done long stretches on a bike. It's cool to have some variation on the route. If the route is completely hardcore single track, it might be fun for a few days, but is it fun for a week? Might be fun for a week, but is it still longer? And for everyone, probably not. It's nice to have some single track, some double track, some fast travel, some quad tracks, and then a stretch of pavement to the next bar. That's a fantastic feeling as well, that you actually feel the air flowing. You can feel the wind on your face again. So I think it's really about mixed terrain touring, all terrain touring, and the tools for that are the other soft bikes. So these are my bikes today. Here I do have my so-called gravel bike, but it's something between a mountain bike and something between a mountain bike and a road bike, really, because even the term gravel bike was just invented. So it's just a drop bar bike with the mountain bike tires. And this style of bike I toured my long trip as well, and it worked really nicely for me. I know there is a good conversation always about the tire width. Is 35 millimeters enough for this route? And somebody said, yeah, I've done the Helsinki Central Park most challenging single tracks with the 35 millimeter tires. Good on you, but it doesn't work for anyone. And for me, touring, I like to go for bigger. I like to stay comfortable, and sometimes I like to go long haul. Then I think being comfort gets even more important. So my bike usually have quite big tires. Now I have 3 working bikes. This is my so-called travel bike. Then in the picture I have my fat bike. That was great for exploring the Arctic. And then I have my Surly Troll with 3 inches bike. It's still it's again running. It was retired for 2 years, but hopefully it will get some kilometers again. So when I started, the problem I really started to solve was it's on this map. It's the bikepacking.com route map, world route map, and still we don't have, like, until today and the 7th of December last year when we published the South by Cycle route network, there was nothing in this area. Now there's a Trans-Europe route as well, which crosses a bit of northern part of Finland as well, but basically, like, we have this huge gap on map. So that's what I wanted to fix. I had a vision that it could be done, and now part of it is completed today. So just quickly about the Southern Trail Network. We call it the project lasted the year before 2020. 2021 was the year we did the project. And Kristina Vana was there as a project manager, and I helped her what I could with all sorts of project stuff. And it ended up working quite nicely. Here are some of the pictures from the route and some of the green gravel pictures that I think really are the cool thing of the South. I live in Ylläs in the north. We don't get light green stuff like that. So every time, like now, this is the second spring that I'm so excited to come here, because I get to ride those gravel trails, having all that light green on my both sides. Also, here is a picture of my bike in a train, and that's come from that, because, like, I think like we designed the routes, and I think all the roads in the future tourism is based on public transportation. Like how we travel nowadays, long distances is unsustainable in many ways. So we designed our routes based on the locations of the public transportation. And once the train has more capacity to accept bikes here in the southern Finland, once they have a good capacity, I think the trail network will work greatly. But it's a great start. They accept a few bikes per train, and you can reach most of the routes on that network by train quite nicely. So here's a big picture of that trail network. 5 different routes. The longer goes from Kouvola to Hanko, and smaller routes using the smaller routes on the network are Western Uusimaa Loop, 300-kilometer loop starting and ending to Helsinki. Then we have 2 cool routes combining using metro line. So they start the ring road G. Somebody just asked me, what does the G mean? It's a ring road G gravel. It's a gravel. We have ring 1, ring 2, ring 3, and then we have the ring G. Gravel ring. Yeah, it sort of sucks if nobody got the joke, but I'm glad to hear some laughs now. So there's ring G, and there's the Nuuksia National Park overnighter. It starts from the downtown Helsinki across the Central Park, and then ends up at the train station at Kirkkonummi. Also really easy transportation, same as Sipoonkorpi National Park overnighter. And now my colleague is showing me, like, get into the routes, finally into the routes, and so let's speed up a little bit. Yeah, but this was. So we started the Arctic Bikepacking Trail project, and then this was a spin-off from that. It was like the same vision, different region, but it was just done so quickly. So now it's finally the time we get the results out from this. My vision was to publish the first routes already for last summer, but it never happened. There was a lot of obstacles on the way to publish thousands of kilometers of routes, and now it seems that I've solved them all, and I'm glad to present the results. I think this is also a good point to mention our partners really that made this all happen. I've done this in cooperation and funded by the municipalities, and here I'm trying to list them without a note. So Enontekiö, Muonio, Kolari, Pello, Kemijärvi, Rovaniemi, Savukoski, Pelkosenniemi, ja Inari ja Utsjoki. That's all the municipalities, and also Sodankylä in the first project. That actually, and it's thanks to them that we actually got funding from the European Union Regional Fund, and it was eventually granted by the Regional Council of Lapland. And also in the project we had as a private company partners, we had Roll Outdoors, Artic Auroras Oy, and Lapland Safaris. So that was the group that helped me to start working on this. The catch here that I would have done this anyway. But I just found a way to make my living while doing it. Though now we did it the official way, which like that I never thought it would be like that. The work would be in some way complicated, and there would be so many questions that had not been answered regarding the publication of the digital routes. What are the responsibilities of somebody when you publish a route, and how far you can use every man's rights? Can you send hundreds of people to somewhere to use somebody's back forest? And it seems that with certain limitations and in good communication with the landowners, you can. And when we're talking about Lapland, it's a lot about the cooperation with reindeer herders as well. So they had done this route network, but there was still this great uncertainty. What if somebody says no? And we still have some routes which are not published because the negotiations are going on. if the routes are acceptable by them to be published. With the many of the reindeer herders, we had agreed that the routes are not open the same, like not open the full summer. We have agreed that many of the routes they actually close like mid-September to give it to make sure that there would be no people working in the region where they have their herds of 2,500 reindeers. Because if a cyclist goes by that, in the worst case, it could split in two. That could be days and weeks work gone with helicopters, motorbike, quads, and many drones. So I think we made it work. So let's jump in. So this is the red network now. I've divided the routes into two categories, actually three. So we have the gravel routes, which are here dark blue, quite looks black on the picture as well. And then we have the red ones are mountain biking routes. So this is also a way to, because here is there starts to be quite a lot riding, like to really to communicate what there is and what bike it's designed for, or what bike works the best. So these are the first 11 routes published now on the site, articbicycle.com, and to just go through these quickly, starting maybe from the Urho Kekkonen National Park mountain bike loop. It takes advantage of the cycling routes, official cycling routes of the national parks, and then loops back on gravel roads. Really nice, short few days route. Then we have the Korvatunturi gravel loop. It's a fantastic 300-kilometer, five-day route in the, I would say, maybe the most remote part of Finland. I think in the village of Savukoski, I don't know if I remember right, but definitely living less than 1,000 people. And once you're on the road, first it looked like that you need to carry all the food you need for the whole route. And I'm like, okay, let's make it happen, and this will be that kind of route. But they have two wilderness centers there, which have everything. They have a shop, restaurant, cafe, cabins, sauna, organized campsites, and yeah, with those it became really pleasant route. And I think that route alone had 16 wilderness shelters, or even more. So you can, if you time your progress right, you can sleep in a wilderness hut or some sort of wilderness shelter every night as well. Then we have the nice little Savukoski-Pelkoseniemi loop. It's just a quite short two-day gravel ride as well, with fantastic sleeping options in the north part of the road. That's actually one of the reindeer herders' cabins, which the reindeer herders gave me a permission to leave on the map, and they said even that, hey, like you can write to the route description that they can use firewood as well. So big thank for them. So this old beautiful cabin, which is now in the use of bike tourists. Additionally, on that route, I need to mention the municipality of Savukoski is considering, I don't know if it's confirmed yet, but they're considering turning one of the old wilderness farms into rental cabins where you could rent the beds only. At the moment, it has been, like the past few years, it has been in the use that like some company rents it for like weeks at a time. So it would not serve really this kind of traveling at all. But they are planning to change the system. So that's fantastic. And I don't know if somebody knows the concept of Casa de Ciclista. Somebody has traveled in the South America. There are these cyclist paradises, little houses, usually owned by private people who want to just support bicycle touring, and open quite often their like secondary houses or even the like downstairs for cyclists. And it's sort of my vision of that place to become sort of like a Casa de Ciclista Artico. It's a beautiful place, and maybe we can start booking beds there soon for really fair prices. Then Pyhäluosto National Park mountain bike loop is really nicely connected. Like you see the whole eastern Lapland. I didn't plan it that way. I just went there, I checked like what is there to ride, and then I started to find these nice little routes. And eventually it makes sense to have have these 3 loops connected, or it became naturally because of the Pelkosenniemi. You have the services in Savukoski, you have the services. So it makes it really, really flexible to plan your routes. You can take a train to Kemijärvi, then ride to Pelkosenniemi, then do just the Pyhäluoto National Park loop and head back. There will be 2 more loops in that area actually for the 2023. Or you can continue to Savukoski-Pelkosenniemi loop, or you can even continue to Korvatunturi gravel loop. Or you can combine, you can do the outer parts of those and all the outer parts of the southern routes and do the Central Lapland gravel loop, which is 1,100 kilometers long in total. So there are plenty of options. This sort of system it makes sense. I didn't plan it that way, but eventually, when I started to look at it, it made sense to put it this way. So more routes. So we have the Santa's Western gravel loop, and like the name suggests, there will be a Santa's Eastern gravel loop as well. It's a 500-kilometer gravel loop from starting from Rovaniemi, naturally because there's a train station. Did you know that it's only 6.5 hours to reach Rovaniemi from Tampere by train, and there are like 5 trains a day? That opened my eyes, like how actually when you use Rovaniemi as a starting point, as for as many routes as possible, how accessible Lapland becomes compared to if you try to reach, like, compared to the higher central part or the more northern part of Lapland, which takes like 3 times for them as long to reach. So we have the Santa's Western gravel loops. It gets its name because it visits the Santa's village. So you have a chance to do high fives with Santa, and it's nicely located right at the Arctic Circle as well, which I actually didn't know. So it's I don't know how they made it happen that they got it built right at the Arctic Circle, and actually you have this line going across the village, which is a nice, like a symbolic most southern part of the whole route. Then on the route we also have the Ylläslevi mountain bike route, which is exactly what it is. It's part of the trail system and there is also a gravel version of that, which is, the name actually doesn't communicate what it is that well. It goes around the tricky parts on back roads, and it will be part of one nice route published for next year as well. It will be called Ylläs-Pallastunturin National Park gravel loop. It will be a 300-kilometer, taking advantage of that. So that's the functionally that's the purpose of that section. Then lastly, there are my favorites. Like really the first routes that when I looked into maps, I looked into history of the area, and then finally got on the bike and started to ride the routes. I started to see that here could be something quite unique and special along the old post road. So the story goes there was a post road from Copenhagen all the way to Alta. And when I looked into history last night, completing that route description, I actually found that there actually have been quite a many of these postal routes, and the way they were designed, of course, they go in the dry land. That's what you want in the Lapland. You want to avoid the swamps. Secondly, you need to follow the ridges made by ice age. You want to stay on those again to stay with dry feet. And so all the postal roads go along the ridges and the driest parts. Sometimes, though, using lakes for crossing naturally because there's plenty of water in the area. Anyway, you can find these like little stretches of apparently the old post road, even in the Pallas National Park. And then it becomes really obvious when you reach Hetta that road actually, the trail connection, single track connection from Hetta to Alta has been active till the 1950s. They built the Kautakeino Alta-Hetta road only, was it 1950, 50-something, 1960s the latest, so that was the main connection to travel, just quite recently. So the Arctic Post Road mountain bike route takes a full advantage of that. the trail is still there. Reindeer herders, some travelers and trekkers still use the trail. And the old mountain lodges, which were founded by the order of king, apparently 1850 in Finnmark, those are still there, and some of them function as lodges. So you can hop from lodge to lodge all the way to Alta. And and the last one there was the Jotka mountain bike route. I will show you I have a closer look at the map regarding that, as well as the other routes. But I wanted to left it on the map because it's really hard to find those crossings with relatively dry feed across the Finnmarks, with the Finnmarks highland, and I like that a lot. Functionally, it only works as a shortcut on a longer route, getting back to the beige route. And here the beige routes are, by the way, they are connecting routes. So I've shown the good ways to get from A to B once you're not on the main route. So there's those two. And the last one, the River Valley, that I haven't mentioned yet. It's fully paved road, and the people say it's the nicest paved road in Finland, and so it might be. So it's on the map as well. It was supposed to be a gateway to one more route in the most northern part of Finland, but for now, negotiations with the reindeer herders are continuing, and hopefully we can get that route on the map as well. So let's start from the Pyhäluosto National Park. Quick overview of the route: 131 kilometers, 2 to 3 days, mostly unpaved, 85%, paved and single track 44%. So that makes it a really nice mountain biking route. I gave it the difficulty rating 7 out of 10. Most of the trails are still quite easy. Easy. Some techie sections, here and there, but mostly quite easy going. Bike-wise, this is clear. This is nice with the bigger tires, and I think I will ride it again this summer with this bike to see how it works, because I actually scouted it with a fat bike, and the bad side of that is that everything gets so smooth and nice, so it's really hard to say how the route was, except was in the pictures. So, but I think it will be more in the mountain biking category, bike-wise as well. Some pictures from the route. Those who have been here, I think, many Finns have been here. It's one of the most popular national parks in the country. Yeah, but it's partly easygoing, some routes here and there, and fantastic wilderness shelters on the way. You won't be there alone, though. It's full. It's like the routes have many of the people full, like the whole summer season. But it's nicely balanced on this route with the really sort of remote feeling back road on gravel back to the starting point. And then next, Arctic Post Road. Yeah, nice to get to tell more about this already now, because it's really, I think, one of my favorites. And I could say, comparing it to all the all the routes I've seen on my 45,000 kilometers across 3 continents, I think this is on the same level as the best stuff I've seen. It has 45% single track, and it's a nearly 350 kilometer road. So it actually a lot of single track, which it's just fantastic. It actually doesn't follow the Hetta Alta Post Road all the way to Alta. It takes a different old service route to the Jotka Fjällstue, one of the active mountain huts that I love a lot. I've been there 3 times. They have fantastic food, beer, wine in the middle of the wilderness. It's a beautiful place to visit. So it makes that extra 70 kilometers of single track before arriving to Alta. So this is one of the jewels of the route, and highly recommend it. Mountain bike route, do it if you have the fitness, if you have the experience. If not, leave it for another year or 2. There's a gravel version as well, though the name gravel doesn't necessarily describe the route that well, because I think it was only 34% is gravel on this, when you get off the rough stuff and go to the back roads, and there is unfortunately, this section between Kautokeino and Hetta, it's the main road to Alta, so it has some traffic as well. But it's anyway, you get most of the sites, most of the best campsites along on the gravel road version of the Arctic Post Road. Logistically, it's not ideal. There's no bus connection between Hetta and Alta at the moment, so it needs a bit more planning, or it needs to be part of a longer tour, unfortunately. Here's some pictures from the route from Pöyrisjärvi wilderness area, and at the Jotka Fjällstue, the one with the auroras, and I don't know if I met quite a many people who have not seen aurora borealis. And I always wonder why, because those people, they go to Lapland, why they don't see them. It's because they are not bike touring. Because to see the auroras, actually you need to be outside a lot, because they could be just 2 minutes like that in the picture, and then it's gone for hours again. So when you leave outdoors, you ride your bike outdoors till the dusk, it gives you really the chance. And when you camp, of course, it gives you the chance to see them. Olli. Okay, here we got a question here that what would be the ideal time to do the postal road, and it's quite easy answer. My favorite season is autumn, in Finnish ruska, autumn colors, I suppose, in English. So that would be starting anytime September. The ruska, the autumn colors usually start the second week. I think the Laplanders, they even have a specific date and time when the ruska starts. So but any time in September be fantastic. And yeah. Otherwise, actually, I could say a word about the seasons as well. Like gravel routes, they open usually in June, early June, and then the mountain bike routes only in early July. And that's because there's then like the terrain stays wet. It stays really wet. I just had some people testing the route in the north, and it was even now.
Yes.
It was. I'm running out of time here.
Yeah, we are trying to be running out of time. So I just came to tell you, because now, like, basically what you have is just explaining of the different routes. So obviously what you want to know now is, where can you find these routes? That's probably the biggest question still in your mind. So you have 2 ways to get there. Bikeland.fi is the common website where you find the big map that I showed. So from bikeland.fi, you find all the cycling routes, all the South Bicycle, as well as Arctic Bicycle. Arctic Bicycle, if you want to go directly there, you can also go like articbicycle.com. That directs you straight to the website where you can look into the routes more specifically. So I would say that you can go with your phone, you can go with your laptop, go browse in there. But let's jump into Andre. Andre is still on the line because he's been riding the routes. He's been one of the first route testers. So we will hear some first impressions from the road directly. Can you hear us, Andre?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. You froze. Now you're back on the live. You froze a little bit, but now we see you and hear you well. How is it going there?
Well, it's the 4th day, and I've done the Pyhä Luosto loop, the Savukoski loop, and accidentally the last part from the Rovaniemi-Kemijärvi Pelkoseniemi loop, because I didn't want to do the connection by the big road. And that turned out to be, in case of the 51 case on the east side, as I'm going to do tomorrow back to Kemijärvi to catch the train, it was 100 case. And that was amazing.
it really good because it turned out I cycled 164 Ks on the first day and 3 hours under the midnight sun. That was pretty cool in Pyhäluosto in the bluish light, and everybody, you gotta do it. But yeah, I'm now here in a bird watching tower. My camp is down there, if you can see it. There's a ton of mosquitoes up here, not so many. So yeah, it's been a really great part. I think the Savukoski one was beautiful. I also tested the local pub and hotel for sauna. Was okay. And yeah, fourth time here in Lapland with the bike, and not the last, definitely.
Sounds
But
good.
basically, on Friday, I took the night train from Helsinki. On Saturday morning, I was in Kemijärvi. Saturday evening, I was already in Luosto. Last night, I was in Savukoski, and now I'm in Arvosjoki. Yeah, that's the name. On my way back to Kemijärvi to catch tomorrow's evening train. So 5 days, Lapland and public transport. Easy peasy.
That sounds amazing, and that's been one of the main goals Taneli had. That basically, by having these train connections and public transport connections, you can do these long weekends in Lapland. Lapland is not that far away, after all, when you hop on a night train and sleep there. Thank you, Andre, for sharing your first thoughts from the road. And as we saw, it wasn't too bad of a rush hour at the lean-to at the moment, but a couple mosquitoes maybe. But at least last summer was surprisingly good with mosquitoes in Lapland. So I was horrified before that, but I wouldn't be too scared for the mosquitoes because when you're riding, you're fine. If you stop, you might not be, but just keep riding the whole night, so you will be fine. But perfect. Thank you. Would you have some more one highlight that you would have? Easy question to finish it off.
A highlight on the Pyhäluosto, the best part was definitely the red parts, bombing down downhill with a bit of roots and rocks on my bike. What was like that was fun. That was like pure fun. And also the start of the Savukoski loop, like the first 15 Ks are just like beautiful.
Nice. As we from your face, we can see you've been enjoying the nature, nature and the views there. Great. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your trip and your final night outside. And we will see you in Helsinki. Taneli, would you have something more you would like to conclude the routes and the launch event?
I guess I found myself like you said, quite excited about the routes as well, and that's why I could talk hours and hours about the details. And interestingly, I wrote some of the route descriptions only like 2 years after doing the routes, but I found myself remembering every single detail, and the memories coming back really easy. And I think it tells a bit about the experiences the routes can give. So, because the website and when you have a chance, escape
Go.
the southern Finland.
Yeah, I really, at least my plan for July is do a lot of long weekends for the short bike routes, and then when I have some vacation, go for the longer trip. So that's definitely my July and August planned. Planned. I don't have. It's for once easy. I don't need to do the planning. I just like, okay, this weekend I do this, and this weekend I do that, and I can just get on my bike and go for a ride. Perfect. Do we have any more questions or ideas or any thoughts from the audience, or do we say bye to our live stream now? And you will find the live stream and the whole launch event from YouTube afterwards if you want to go back to any moments. And other than that, just head to bikeland.fi or articbicycle.com cyclebikepacking.com, and that's where you find all the route info. Thanks from my behalf. It was really nice to have this kind of place as Peloton, and to be able to organize some live events and get some people here to enjoy the night together, and like have the cycling people together.
Yeah, thank you.
So